Hello and welcome everybody to our 10 years HPC Systems anniversary series. And as you have already been acquainted with, we have a number of friends, colleagues, and other community members that have been participating in each one of these podcasts on a regular basis. And many of them you've seen in the community. They've been engaged and involved in our open source community and helping grow and develop HPC systems for a very long time. And today, of course, I have the pleasure of bringing here two of my good friends, Stuart Ort, who I think everyone knows. He needs no introduction. He's been behind a large number of projects that have to do with from core capabilities and HPC systems on the platform, all the way with integration with other systems and more. And Kunal, who's been also quite active in the community, doing quite a bit of awareness and helping bring some of the other projects as well into HPC systems. Welcome, folks, and I'm very glad to have you here, Stu and Kunal.
Thank you.
Let's get this started. So, Stu, you've been involved with HPC systems before it became open source, even before it was a mainstream, I would say, and certainly for a very long time. So you lived throughout our desire to make it open source and eventually making it open source, and the adventure, the potential for pain, and the quirks throughout the process. So how was your experience? What have you done, and how this came to be?
Well, a little background on myself here at the company. I just celebrated my 20th year at the company with HPCC Systems, working on the platform, and I've done everything here from being a software developer when I first started to now I'm a director of development, working with the open source. So when we first started, we were basically bare metal. Working on individual pieces as we're growing the platform. Roxy was in its infancy and growing from there. We had all our clients, or most of our clients, were all internal. So we were dealing with our internal QA teams, operations teams, and we had a couple of external customers that were using it as part of contracts or part of other divisions within our corporation. As we moved to open source, some of the bigger challenges came in is we didn't just have to worry about our internal customers, but we had to deal with now with external people using forums and open source Jira, open sourcing our whole platform, and getting contributions from the community. When we first started entering the open source about 10 years ago now, we used to go around saying we're real good at big data solutions and the platform that we have, but we're not real good at open source yet. 10 years later, we can say we're very good at both of them now.
You know what? I would venture that building proprietary software is easier than making it open source, because you don't need to show your code to anyone. Your documentation only matters to yourself, but nobody else. The contributions, well, that doesn't matter. You control every contributor to that code base. So making it open source is really hard, right? It forces you to change your mind.
Yeah, you sort of have to document what you're doing. Your bug tracking system is looked at, and yes, there was the platform team underwent a significant refactoring of the code. We actually used it as an opportunity to clean up and redo a lot of the stuff that we felt was wrong, but it was working, and there was no real push to do it. Now that we're going in the open source and wanted it adapted there, we took the time to say, all right, this worked 20 years ago, but in order to make it move forward, it's not going to work and not going to scale and not going to be accepted. So yes, it was a major undertaking. It was fun, but it was a major undertaking.
But you could argue that all of those are quality enhancements of the code base. So by doing those things, the code became better, not just more readable, but also potentially more robust overall.
Absolutely. It became more robust, more flexible, able to do more. And now as we're approaching the containerized cloud initiative with our 8.0 delivery that's coming out soon, it positioned us to be able to do that. We could not have done this with the prior version.
Very good point. Very good point. Yes, it would have been impossible. So, so let's get a little bit of a Kunal's opinion there. So, Kunal, you've been also around for quite a bit of time. Maybe not as long as Stu, and Stu is one of those exceptional cases. But tell us a little bit about your own adventure with HPC Systems and the open source community.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I started with LexisNexis about 7 years ago, so 3 years after we went public, which would mean that most of the foundations were laid, and they were laid pretty well, I have to admit. I started as a quality engineer, so I was constantly learning and on my toes. I had great coworkers that were always willing to help me because it was all new to me. And I transitioned into a role where I was able to work on the front end of ECL Watch, which has grown so much since I at least started at HPCC. We went from a really basic.
You know what? You mentioned ECL Watch, and yes, it has been the changes have been so dramatic there. I wish we could build a website with the different versions, so you could have the look and feel from 2010, and the look and feel from 2015, and the look and feel from 2019, and now ECL Watch has become its own environment, and it changed from a usability perspective and a user interface perspective, all the way to the functionality it offers, right?
100%. Yeah, it's really grown from this infantile web page that we use to host our HPCC systems clusters, and it's grown into this beautiful web browser that really has so much more detail and information that feeds back to the user both visually and well, visually, essentially.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
really
yeah.
worked on making it as easy as possible for the user to get as much feedback as possible from everything that we do, whether it's visualizations or charts or forms.
Well, and I feel like users today can go to ECL Watch to get most of the information that they need at their fingertips, rather than try to dig through logs or try to set up some metrics somewhere else or instrument some other components on their own, which was something that people were doing back in the day because there was nothing in ECL Watch that allowed them to see all of these things.
Correct. We're really trying to make sure that the user has as much access to whatever information that they're allowed to have access to, and in the easiest way possible, because at the end of the day, the user is the person that we're trying to make the happiest.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's true. Just coming back to you, because you had your little things dirty with many areas in HPC systems. So I know that you coded quite a bit, and you have done also quite a bit of many other things, including integration, including continuous deployment, including so many other things. So tell me, what was the most fun experience that you got there? What was the area that you said, oh yeah, I really thrived in this area doing this thing? Well, what is it? If you were to point at one or two.
Back in the day when I was doing more development, I really enjoyed working on the initial version of how queries and data were published to the Roxy platform. I personally enjoyed doing when I did the development, and it's my management style also to work more in the background than the foreground. So this Roxy config service, as we called it, was really in the background. It quote unquote wasn't a revenue.
You are the puppeteer in the
Yes.
background.
Well, now I am, right? When Kunal's on my team and I have other great developers, including, just like him. But when I was working on it, it would be like, oh, well, does what you're working on generate revenue? And it's like, no, but if you don't get your queries to the platform, you're not running anything.
That's
It
correct.
is one of the pieces that when we went open source was totally gutted, basically redone from scratch by other members of the platform team. But it was a lot of fun doing it that way and working very closely with the operations team and the quality assurance team, so they understood how to publish data, how to publish queries, how to make sure that it worked, and how to try to get it done in a timely manner. So that was kind of fun. And then from the director management side of it, it's just working with my team and helping them learn some of the new technologies, and whether it's open source technologies or cloud technologies, and then sort of pushing them to learn themselves and deliver on time, and face those challenges.
Yeah, and your
Kunal
team
can
is one
tell
of
you.
the your team is one of the early adopters of new technologies many times. I see them going to some areas where we haven't explored yet,
Yeah,
and
and
getting.
my team we have people that are join us like right out of school, like Kunal did, and I have people on my team that have been here nearly 20 years.
Yes.
You know, and Kunal's been with us 7, and you know, we work with them, we train him, as he said he was working with other people, and he can tell you about, you know, how his first assignment came and what his reaction was, you know, to that. You know, we set you up to succeed, and you know, make sure that everyone gets the you know, the fun and the accolades that come with it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. So, Kunal, so which projects are you working on today? What exactly are you doing? Are you still working on ACL Watch, and which areas in particular?
Yeah, so my primary focus is on ECL Watch these days. I work closely with Gordon Smith and a couple other members on our team to make sure that we're delivering the best front user interface that we can. Primary sections, I'm pretty much in every section of it. I love working in the security aspects of it. So I work with Russ Whitehead and a couple other members of the team to work on security and just the overall look and feel of ECL Watch. So we're constantly trying to improve it and make sure that the user is able to see everything rather than saying, you know, we used to be able to see this, we used to be able to see that. We want to make sure that you see everything that you used to be able to see and new features at the same time. So we're really trying to make sure that anything that you may used to have to take 3 or 4 steps to do now only takes 1 step. Or if it takes 3 steps, we're always trying to improve that process. The less clicks, the better, in my opinion, at least, from a user perspective.
So, Kunal, the future is 0 steps, right? So when are we building our conversational interface to ECL Watch? Alexa enabled.
Oh gosh, I think that'd be an ideal preference if you could just say my Alexa just talk to me. So
There you go. Yes,
they're ready.
exactly.
I think they're ready to work with us.
That is very good. Yes, yes. So, and Stuart, what do you see for the future? So, you mentioned certainly clouds and containers, and I think that is a real dramatic improvement over whatever we did before. Losing a little bit of dependency on hardware and being able to run in almost every system is that's also an amazing area. So, how do you see this evolving as we move to the cloud and we start using containers across the board?
From an internal standpoint, I think it makes our release process much easier because we don't. Right now, we support 3 main Linux distros, and then long-term support, you know, short-term support, just the bleeding edge. So we don't have
virtual machines and
correct. Right.
Yeah,
right now, we support VirtualBox, and we used to support, you know, VMware and stuff like that. Now we'll probably release like a Docker container so someone can run that in a local world. But we'll also have our Docker images that run inside of Kubernetes, which is being managed by Helm. And then as long as that's supported by a cloud provider, we're pretty much good to go. I mean, we will have some things that are maybe data store, you know, remote storage specific, right? But that's the challenge and sort of the cloud world is still somewhat new to the community at large. Forget about our community, just the community at large. And we're evolving to adjust to that, to make the platform more cloud aware. I mean, the platform did work or does work currently in cloud worlds, right? At Azure and AWS and things like that. But we really not aware, right? It's sort of one of those lift and shifts. You took the bare metal thing and you got the same applications to work there. But we're making our platform a lot more flexible and a lot more adjustable to these environments. And that's the next big challenge, is how to go about that. Well, we know how to go about that, and we are going about that. But it's the challenges that'll come from within there. And then as people are using it, it was the same thing in the bare metal. People use things in ways we didn't envision. Kunal can tell you that about ECL Watch, back-end stuff, front-end stuff, middleware. We write and talk to users, and as the people are using it, it's like, oh, didn't envision this. We'll go and change it for you. Right.
Well, that is also the beauty of having a real open source community around it, because you have all of these people with different experiences, different backgrounds, and different use cases that come and say, well, look, I think this might work better this other way, or maybe you should explore this other integration, or you should look at this way to deploy it, or you should, all of those. Of course, I always say that ideas are great and pull requests are better. But even if it's an idea, ideas are good. It always helps drive innovation, which is
sure
good.
and we're always looking for contributions. Somebody has a specific thing, yeah, put it in. We'll make sure it works with our stuff, and we'll accept your pull requests. We're strong believers in the use of our forums on the HPCCsystems.com website. People should feel free to enter entries into the Jira system we use at track.hpcsystems.com. All work done by the platform team has to have a corresponding Jira before a pull request can get made. So everything that we do is all in that system. So it's bugs, new features, enhancements, suggestions, everything gets the Jira. I mean, some things may just be handled a discussion in a forum because it's just a discussion. How would you advise us to do this? But anything that's work related will be in there. So we encourage people to check that out.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you're absolutely
as well
right.
as documentation that's on the HPCsystems.com. My group handles that, and I think you have a podcast set up with the two guys that do that.
I do, yes.
Yeah, because we made it a big effort to get the quality of the documentation up. We treat documentation as code, so it's handled just as if it's regular development, and that adds to the challenges that we have. But anybody who wants to contribute to our documentation, just like if it's source code, check it out of Git, make the change, make a pull request.
Yeah, that is so. That's to me is always mind-boggling. It's truly embracing the mindset of everything as code, and building documentation as code. That's just the only thing I would say that we need to eventually build as code is our training. I don't know how to do that yet, quite yet, but yeah, that's the other piece where that has grown also significantly, and we had other podcasts also in that area, but. All of the content that is out there that, of course, is maintained and expanded as we continue to expand and maintain the platform, evolve the platform, right?
Yeah, sure, and the trainers, Bob Foreman and Richard Taylor, and Hugo in Brazil, they're actually what I call my honorary team members, and they come to my team meetings so that we can actually exchange ideas of what they're doing, what the platform team is doing to help each of us move forward. So we understand what they're training and what they're looking for and help them with their environments and changes, as well as they can now anticipate when things are coming.
Yeah,
so it helps the communication and the team bonding all across, which is very big at our company.
Yeah. Well, and it's a tightly knit community as well. That's the one thing that I saw. It was quite positive in our community, in general, open source community, is that people tend to create those links as well, even outside of LexisNexis Risk Solutions, as in the open source community as well. Last night, Arjuna was sending me an email from someone in Russia that was looking at some HPC systems analysis in the middle of the night for them as well. So saying, yeah, look, there are people obsessed around the world, and we are all communicating in real time. That's just that's the beauty of open source communities in general, particularly those that are well aligned and tightly knit as the HPC Systems one. Yes,
sure.
Yeah. Hey, so guys, I don't want to make this too long. I think we're going to go beyond the allotted time frame for the podcast. This has been great. I really enjoyed going through all of this and a little bit of a stroll through history in our HP Systems 10 years journey, which is, look how many open source projects out there have lived for 10 years and continue to flourish, right? So it's a lot to be said about that. And how much is going right now into our roadmaps, right? Including the container approach, the cloud-based deployments, the ECL watch work, and all of the documentation evolution. So this is great, and I look forward to having another conversation then, folks.
Yeah, in 10 years we'll rewatch this one as we're doing the 20-year podcast.
I'm sure we will, or the 25 years. Yes. Now, for the 50 years, I don't know if we'll be able to make it. Hopefully we will, but we might be old.
Well, Kunal will be there.
Kunal will be there for sure. Yeah. Maybe you and I, Stu, will be a little bit. We will be worrying about other things at the time.
Right.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Flavio.
See you around.
Thanks, Flavio. Have a great day.
Bye.